Welcome to the Activated Story Theater's 106th podcast.
This episode brings you the story of The Twin Brothers, a story from Czechoslovakia.
Hi, I'm Dennis.
And I'm Kimberly.
And I'm Zephyr.
And together we are Activated Actors. Plus one.
Captain Jack.
Very same.
Zephyr is back with us. We are currently in Arkansas, Jonesboro, Arkansas. We've just spent some time in St. Louis, Missouri, and Nashville, Tennessee.
And of the three, I think St. Louis has the most arches.
I don't know. I haven't counted the McDonald's yet.
I didn't even count those.
We picked up Zephyr in Nashville and took him up to a convention. And do you want to tell us about the convention? Zephyr Dugan Gozas.
Wow, were you on a middle name basis
We're
now
on a middle
too?
name, yeah. And you weren't even in trouble.
Okay. We went out to the Transworld Halloween and Attractions show. It's like a big haunted house industry convention for everyone from enthusiasts to actors to consultants, but mostly for owners and operators. It's where all of the vendors premiere all their new effects, and all of the owners and operators go decide what they're going to buy, and they'll sort of base their seasons around it, and they have seminars and all sorts of things like that.
And we got to do fun things like walk through one of those tunnels that spins around and makes you feel like you're going to fall over, and
I see a lot of really neat costumes and animatronics and that kind of thing. Special effects.
Yeah.
Some 12-foot tall necromancer monsters.
Huge costumes. So we've had a good week with Zephyr. He flew out from Rhode Island, and we also went wall climbing in Nashville.
That is true. I'm something of an avid wall climber these days.
Yeah, he made us climb the walls. No, we actually took him, because we like to climb walls too. So we did that, and then drove up to St. Louis, and then we'll be dropping Zephyr off in Memphis. He's going to fly back to Rhode Island, and we'll be heading west. But right now, we have a story for you, and this story is called The Twin Brothers, a story from Czechoslovakia.
One day, a woman happened to be working in the meadow by the river when she looked in and saw a fish.
Ooh, I should like to eat you, fish. I'm very hungry, so surely you would not mind.
First, hear the words I have to say. You will have twin sons, although you have never had any children before.
She wasn't sure she heard him correctly because he sounded as if he were talking underwater.
Really? That is great news. Oh, how can I ever thank you?
Take me to your field and bury me, and plant a rose tree over me.
Really? That's what fishies call gratitude? You sure you wouldn't rather have a worm or something?
When the roses first come into bloom, you will bear twin sons. After 3 years, dig in the place where you buried me, and you will find 2 swords, and these you must keep. They will keep your sons safe and successful in their pursuits.
Well, I've never harvested a crop like that before. Of course, I've never planted one like you before. Very well. I shall do as you said. I suppose if a fish can speak at all, it must know what it's talking about.
So she planted the fish and a rose bush over it. And the rose bush grew more roses, but the fish did not grow more fish. But the woman had twin sons, just as the fish had said. Wah. And when the boys were 3 years old, she dug where the fish had been planted.
2 swords! Oh, just as the fish said. I'll never again doubt the word of a fish.
When the sons grew up, they decided to take the magic swords with them and go out into the world to make their fortunes. The first rode through deep forests, and he met a fierce dragon. So he attacked the dragon, which had 9 heads. At last, he succeeded in cutting one of the dragon's heads. And so it went on till he had all the heads cut off. Then he cut out the tongues and all the 9 heads and kept them, and so went forward on his adventurous journey. Now it chanced that there were some woodcutters in these forests, and one of them collected all the dragon's heads. That dragon used to come to the town and devour one person every visit. This time the lot had fallen upon the princess, and so she was to be devoured by the dragon. So the town was all hung with black cloth. The woodcutter knew all about this. So he found the dragon heads and took them to the town to ask for the princess in marriage, for it had been proclaimed that whoever killed the dragon should be her husband. Just then, the first twin happened to come to the town, and he saw a good inn, so he rode up to it. The innkeeper came at once to ask,
What can I do for you, sir?
What is all the commotion around here? There seems to be a big party going on.
Well, my lad, there is going to be a wedding and a feast. Because, you see, the woodcutter saved the life of the princess by killing the 9-headed dragon. So, he gets to marry her.
Are you sure that it was the woodcutter who killed the dragon?
Of course! He brought the heads to the palace.
So the lad went to the palace and asked to speak to the princess.
Yes, what can I do for you? I don't have any jobs available right now.
I wanted to ask you about this woodcutter you're going to marry.
Oh, don't remind me. I really don't want to marry him. Oh, but a deal's a deal. He killed the dragon that was going to kill me.
Something tells me he didn't really kill that dragon.
Oh, but he did. He has the dragon heads to prove it. Oh, you can't exactly buy those at Walmart.
Well, I'd like to see him and his dragon heads.
So they brought the woodcutter before him, and the twin asked to see the heads.
Did you really kill the cruel dragon?
Certainly I did.
And how did you cut the heads off?
With my saw.
Impossible. You're lying. And why is it that the dragon heads have no tongues in them?
Well, the dragon didn't have any tongues. Yeah, that's it.
Here are the tongues, and it was I who killed the cruel dragon.
My hero! I shall marry you instead. And as for you, woodcutter, out of my sight, and never show your face around here again, or you go to jail.
Yeah. So he married the princess, and they lived happily, etc. But one day, as the twin was looking out the window of his castle tower...
Dear, whose black castle is that? It's not your summer place or something, is it?
That? Oh, no. That's just an enchanted castle. I don't know much about it because nobody who goes there ever returns. At least that's what they say. But of course nobody knows for sure because nobody's ever come back to tell about it.
But he could not rest, and he was eager to explore the castle. So one morning he ordered his horse to be saddled. The horse didn't understand the order, so someone had to do it for him. And, accompanied by his dog, he rode to the castle. When they reached it, they found the gate open. As he went in, he saw men and animals all turned to stone. In the hall, an old hag was sitting by the fire. When she saw him, she pretended to tremble.
Tie up your dog, will you? He might bite me, and one of us might get rabies.
Don't be afraid, he won't harm you. Will you, boy? You're a good doggy.
He bent down to pat the dog. And at that moment the hag took her wand and struck him with it. He was turned to stone, and his horse and dog, too. Meanwhile, back at the palace, the princess waited for her husband, but he did not return. She mourned for him, rather overdramatically, and the citizens who loved their lord were grieved at his loss. Actually, they were grieved at their loss, which was the loss of him. But there was another twin, wasn't there? We mustn't forget about him. One morning he looked at his sword and saw, "My sword, it looks rusty all of a sudden. That must mean that my brother is in trouble. I must go find him, but where?" The sword, being enchanted, began to point in the direction of the town where the palace was. So the brother knew to follow it. It was guidance by pointing sword, or GPS for short. When he came to the town, it was hung with black flags mourning for the lost prince. And when the princess saw him...
Oh, you're back! Where have you been so long, my dear husband?
Husband? I see. Yes, I am. I just forgot a few things in my absence. You see, I lost my way in the forest one day, and I was found by a band of robbers, and I was afraid, so I pretended to be a robber too, yeah, and so I had to stay with them until I could find a chance to escape, so finally I did. How's that? His brother's wife believed his story, and so he pretended to be his brother and stayed in the palace, hoping he could find out what happened to his brother. One morning, as he was looking out the window in the turret, "Oh, wife dear!"
Here I am. Why is it you keep calling me wife? It's like you can't remember my name or something.
Oh, don't be silly, my precious significant other. Look, I was just wondering whose big black castle that is over there on the mountain.
Maybe you are having memory problems? I already told you, that's the enchanted castle.
There's an amusement park there?
No, dear. It's a real enchanted castle, and they say that whoever goes there never returns.
So if I had a brother who was missing, there's a good chance that's where he'd be.
Yeah, whatever.
So he ordered his horse to be saddled, and without saying a word to anybody, he rode off to the castle. As soon as he entered the castle, he saw his brother and his dog turned to stone. He saw, too, all the petrified knights and their horses, and the hag sitting and keeping up the fire. Yo, hag, unless you bring my brother to life again, I'll chop you in pieces with this sword of mine.
That's a magical sword. I can tell by the brand. Please, sir, do not be too angry with me. I turned things to stone by habit. I just can't help myself. I've tried to get help, but the doctors I go to always end up in my collection. But if you'll take the ointment from that box over there and rub it under his nose, he'll come to life again.
Oh, no, you don't. I'm not going to take my eyes off you. You might pull something on me. You get the ointment yourself.
Oh, very well.
But when she got up to get the ointment, he grabbed her magic wand and turned her into stone. And he turned all the stone people and animals back into people and animals, respectively.
My brother! I knew you would come for me sooner or later. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, too. Although, now that you've been frozen in stone for a while, it's going to be odd to be older than my twin brother. So they rode back to the palace together, and the princess was, to say the least, astonished to see that there were two of her husband. But she and her real husband were at last reunited, and the other twin went off to find more adventures of his own. And that's the story of The Twin Brothers, a Czech folktale. And we chose that story in memory of my brother-in-law Frank, who recently passed away. Frank was Canadian, but his parents came from Czechoslovakia.
And he has twin sons,
yes,
Matt and Mark.
He had twin sons.
Well, we are on our way to California to do some shows. We have free shows coming up in Belvedere, Tiburon. Well, it's actually Tiburon, but it's called the Belvedere Tiburon Library in April, as well as Fairfield, California, and a whole bunch in Sacramento. And then we just found out we will be kicking off summer reading programs in Reno, Nevada this year.
Yay, back to Reno.
Yay, so we'll be there at the end of May kicking off programs, and then on our tour heading east from Reno, Nevada across to Kansas and all the way out to Massachusetts. Surely there'll be a show next to you. Check our website and I'll put a link to it in the show notes.
Maybe we should have Zephyr tell us a little bit about the new developments where he works. The last time he was on the show, he told us about his job, but there's something new going on now.
There is, yes. Some of you may have heard about Five Wits, which is where I work. Five Wits Patriot Place. There used to be a Five Wits location in Boston, which was called Tomb. That's no longer in existence. So the one we have now is in Patriot Place, where I work on most days of the week. If you walk in there on any given day, there's a pretty good likelihood you'll find me there. I worked over 40 hours a week last pay period. So
ask for Zephyr.
Yeah, I'm probably around in the building somewhere.
And tell him you found him for the podcast.
We do interactive theme park style walkthrough adventures. So it's kind of like getting to be inside a movie or a video game. And last time I was on, I believe I was talking about espionage.
Yes.
Which we still have running full strength as ever, but we have a new attraction complementing it, which is titled 20,000 Leagues. It's based off of Jules Verne's novel, 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And that one's really cool as well, as you start out in a museum which is sort of dedicated to Jules Verne, and then you discover a secret passage which takes you down on board the Nautilus, which is very cool and extremely rusted, needless to say. It's some of the cooler sets in the building, I would say. But it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you're a fan of espionage.
And if you like to go on adventures.
Yes.
Yes.
If you like to have fun.
And if you like fighting giant squid, which I certainly hope you do, because you may have to.
Or if you just want to see Zephyr, that's where he is.
There you go.
A lot of the time.
And you can catch Zephyr on March 26th in Clinton, Connecticut at the Chamber of Commerce. And he'll be appearing as Captain Jack Sparrow. Thank you for joining us, and we will be back again in the future with another Activated Story.
See you next time.
Activated Story Theater is committed to bringing fun, educational shows to schools and libraries nationwide. On stage, we use physical comedy, American Sign Language, imaginative props, and a giant, oversized book to bring multicultural folktales to life. For booking information, check out our website, activatedstorytheater.com, where you can also find out when the activated actors will be performing near you, read a story, or order one of our audio CDs. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes or listen on Stitcher. We look forward to your comments and folktale suggestions. Stay activated. Until next time.